Here's a really quick introduction to PicID. We're going to do a graduation where I've got training images of the graduates. These are grad portraits that were taken slightly before the grad. We also have a CSV or an Excel file which contains at the least first name, last name, a student number is a good thing to have. A grade is good. There's also stuff in here that PicID doesn't need, like ticket code and so on. That's okay. It'll just be ignored during import. So what we're going to do is learn the faces based on the graduation photos and then apply them to pictures that were taken during the graduation ceremony. Not just the grip and grin as the students cross the stage and receive their diplomas, but also during things that normally are not economic. Usually when there are speeches or buddy pictures or family pictures, the photographer just puts their camera away because they don't know who the people in the photographs are. But if you know who this person is, even if you don't know anybody else in the crowd, you can sell them pictures. And so it makes no difference to PicID whether you're looking at a family picture or a group picture or an actual graduation. It's all just face matching. So what we're going to do is learn the faces and then categorize all of these images. So I'll run the application. And we're looking for the workstation. There are other tools that you use off in the field, or if you're a studio manager you work with, but I'm going to start the workstation up. It's going to ask for a name for this, so I'm just going to call it Sample Grad. And you can put in whatever ID you like, and you can choose to add training images now or later. You could put in multiple sets of training images, for example, picture day and a makeup day. That happens all the time. But what we're going to do here is go into that folder that we saw and load the CSV that we saw. It figures out the separator and it figures out that it has a header row, and it makes sure that the first and last and student number the fields are all correct. I'll say pay attention to this information here. It tells you if you get 0 referenced images found, then there's something wrong, probably a subfolder. Anyway, that gives you some feedback that the loading is going to go well. So you've heard of machine learning and building models of faces and so on. That just happened right in front of you. We just loaded the data, read the faces, learned the faces, and now we're done. We have a cache ready for this school, which is called Sample Grad. So the interface basically is which organization are we talking about, and you can add and remove and add more training images if you like. What images do you want to match, and then what do you want done with them? So on the matching side, we're going to go and find pictures from the grad. Okay, so these are the grip and grins and such that we saw. I'm going to point out the year, make sure it's current, because the PicID databases become multi-year as you work with them. So you want to be able to go back to last year and use faces from last year to help with picture day this year, for example. So you need to know which year things are for. Also, this is a graduation event. It's useful to set up a collection because once you've built a database of all the stuff you've done at a school, picture day, makeup day, father-daughter dance, a football game, the grad portraiture, and then finally a graduation, if you've taken the moment to tag them with what they are, and this is a collection of graduation photos, then the databases that you build will be able to filter and say, show me 3 years ago sport pictures from this school, and then it'll do something useful. The other options are less important for now. We go to the Output tab, and on the left are things that are going to happen right now. For example, the kind of things that if at the end of the day you cleaned up your workspace and deleted images, you wouldn't mind because you've used them. You've put them into a gallery for sale, or you've printed them out. So immediate means you need the output this moment. Archives are for longer range thinking. It's a database that you add onto of everything you know about a school. Our schools last forever. The organizations will have databases, and there's a couple of different ways to work with them. I'll show both here. The file naming, I'm going to say rename the images as they get matched. So we're going to figure out who the person is, Jones, Timmy, student ID 1234, and then add a little bit of random text so that if you get 3 pictures of the same kid, they don't just overwrite one another because nothing else would change. You can design your own file naming scheme, but that's what these do here. We're going to save a reference image, and we're also going to export, for example, to Blueprint is fine. This is just a preset for a number of columns and column headings so that you can import the results from the face match directly into your choice of tool without having to configure anything about it. The other options are less important. I'll come back to those later. So let's just hit Start. I see that there's roughly 100 images, and it's giving me some feedback that there was a matched face, and if there were multiple matched faces, it would have said so. While it's going on, I'm going to hit the Go button here, which will take me into folders, the immediate folders, and here under Reference, I can see what's being worked on. So as we wait, we're just going to see more and more images being written out. So these are reference images, which means that if we look at them up close, we'll see the photograph and then the reference image that was used as sort of proof that we got it right. We don't know who this gentleman is. We're unsure. So the red means we know that we don't know who it is, and the green means we're very confident that this is in fact Sydney. If you see a yellow frame, it means we think it is somebody, but we're not 100% sure, so you might want to check. So you wouldn't use these reference images in production, but you would use them to make sure that everything is going smoothly. While this is being written, we're also exporting stuff here into the exports folder. Remember, it was named after the person's first student number and then a little bit of extra random text. So the last thing that will be written into this folder is a CSV, which could be imported directly into Blueprint, let's say, or H&H, or your choice of post-production tool. Also going on, if we just keep going up in the folders, here we have archives. And we've got two different sets of things being built because I had two checkboxes for two different ways of working with archives. You would normally just pick one, but sifted means that we've created a school called Sample Grad, which has a year called 22-23, and each one of these folders was created in front of you. And for example, these are all pictures of Robin. And if we look, that's what we see. So the pictures are based on the face match being copied into these folders. So we would say that they're being sifted. And as time passes, we're going to start to see other pictures, the buddy pictures, the family pictures, and so on. Right now, we've only made it through the graduation. So that's a sifted approach to archives. Another way of doing it would be to have everything go into, again, a folder for the school and the year, but then just a flat list of images with a single CSV that holds everything together. And that's why the file naming is so important, because after 5 years and 5 events per school times 1,000 images, you're going to have an awful lot of content. And so the database would be quite useful to keep it all straight, and the file names need to be absolutely unique. So let's see how we're doing. We're getting close to done. So to be clear, we're doing right now 4 things at once. We are saving the reference image, we're building an export for Blueprint, and we're building a long-term archive in 2 different ways. So that's why we're seeing the rendering speeds that we are. By this point, I think we will be into the things after the actual graduation. So, right, we're now getting into things like the buddy pictures. So this guy was known to the system, his friend here wasn't, but that's okay. You could sell this picture to Madison and it would be okay. And here's a picture of Lee with his family. So again, we know the one person, we don't know anybody else, but that's okay because this will go into the Lee Addison collection. So that's true here for the family pictures, and here are buddy pictures. Now this one's interesting because this guy is in profile. The face match will fail past a certain angle, and you'll come to understand what that angle is as you work with it. But if I just go forward, we're seeing here the kids are fine, whether they were wearing glasses during the ceremony and not during the picture day for the grads. Here's an example of you could call it a candid or a buddy picture, but it's certainly not something that the photographer would normally be able to sell to London here. All right. So if we go looking for Dominique here in the Dominique folder, so here we have a sifted collection of everything. There's her receiving her graduation diploma, buddy picture, a second picture from the ceremony. She was part of the check giving, and somewhere in here there's her family. So this is very useful to sell more than just the single picture. You could have sold these. Now you can also sell buddy pictures and family pictures and so on. So when the process is complete, you get a little bit of a summary of how it all went. And now that the entire process is complete, the databases will also have been written out. So if we turn from the sifted to the database approach, we've now got all of the images renamed, but also a CSV. And this is, in more serious volume production, the more useful file, because you could use this to populate an online gallery, for example. So if I were to sort it by individual ID, right? So these are all the pictures of Sage here. And these could all be considered graduation photos, but if you had kept working and you had father-daughter dance and graduation grad portraits, for example, they would all have different collection IDs. And so you could populate the online galleries that way. Anyway, that's a really quick overview. In front of you, I created a school, trained it with faces, and then gave it images from a graduation and did several useful things with it. Enjoy.